I am Ted Del Grosso, and this is my journey of fiction and fascination. Growing up in northern New Jersey, I always dreamt of adventures and spun tales, but it wasn't until I joined the Boy Scouts that I truly discovered my passion for storytelling. Those memorable days in summer camp opened my eyes to the world of possibilities. The great outdoors became my playground, and every hike, every campfire, every starry night sky sparked a new flame in my mind. Little did I know that these adventures would one day form the foundation of my writing career. My days in the Navy taught me discipline and resilience and a wealth of experiences that later fueled my creativity. The camaraderie, the challenges, and the unique situations I encountered during my time in the Navy all became an inspiration for my stories. Upon returning to civilian life, attending college, teaching, coaching, raising a family, and finally having a career at Home Depot that has now spanned 25 years, I never lost sight of my true calling, fiction writing. Why? Because a well-told tale can unlock doors in the heart that logic and reason never could. Throughout my journey, I've learned that life itself is the greatest story of all, but it's through fiction that I found my voice. Through my books, Ted's Tales 1 and 2, and Ted's Tales Short Timers, I invite readers to join me on these bite-sized adventures. Each story is a window into a new world, a chance to experience excitement, mystery, and the wonder in just a few pages. So whether you're a longtime fan of short fiction or new to it, I hope my tales will provide you with that much-needed escape and spark your imagination. Because in the end, that's what storytelling is all about: connecting, entertaining, and inspiring, one short tale at a time. Thank you for being part of my journey. Here's to many more stories to come.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Sess's Corner. And the gentleman that you just got a glimpse of is my very special guest for this episode of Sess's Corner, a longtime dear friend of mine who we can now say is a local successful author, the one and only Mr. Ted Del Grosso. Ted, thank you so very much. Welcome to Sess's Corner. It's an absolute honor to have you as part of Sess's Corner. Thank you so much. And folks, let me tell you, we are emanating for this episode from the famous Del Grosso Man Cave. I must tell you, as I always say, Sess's Corner is on the road at all times. You never know where we're going to come from. And for this episode, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of being in the Del Grosso Man Cave, as I'm going to call it. And of course, undisclosed location. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome. And again, Ted, thank you so very much again for the opportunity and to take time out of your busy schedule. And here we are. And let me tell you, who would have thought, who would have thought you and I met 30 plus years ago in our beloved hometown of Belleville, respectively coaching Belleville Recreation Baseball, the old farm league as it was called back then. And we used to play our games at the one field at the high school complex, the old number 2 diamond, as it used to be referred to. Now it's been scaled back a bit, all these years later. It's used predominantly for a T-ball level. And then, of course, Clairman Field, which is now known as the Carl Carino complex, and so forth. And as everybody as everybody may know, Clairman Field, of course, was where the farm league, we used to have some memorable games there. And but that's how you and I met. We were, respectively coaching. You were coaching the Farm League White Sox with our other mutual friend, Jerry Hoban. I was coaching the Indians with the gentleman who got me started into Belleville Rec baseball coaching, my dear friend, John Zoppi. And that's how you and I met, because we would play each other. And we had a couple of fierce, battles, from, I want to say, from 91 to 93 in particular. We had some memorable clashes, our two teams respectively. We had a lot of fun. Okay, a little tension along the way. How could there not be? That's all
course.
part of the fun, after all. But who would have thought that back then, here we are, 30 plus years later, that we would be interviewing, talking about you as a successful author. I mean, let's face it, who would have thought? But here we are, nonetheless, and I can't wait to really get into the meat and potatoes of what you have been accomplishing from the standpoint of now being an author and so forth. So again, Ted, welcome to Cessa's Corner. And after a 25 plus year career at Home Depot, raising your wonderful family and so forth, and now you're recently retired, and you have 3 publications out. Ted's Tales 2, and Ted's Tales, the short timers, as you call it. So, but let's kind of take us back and how did this all come about? What got you started to pursue becoming an author, to pursue publishing, and so forth? Take us through that journey as to how we got to this point, how you got to this point, I should say.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm honored to be here with you today. It's been a long journey. I have been writing short stories, for quite a long time. Some of them are 30 years old in my first book. Some of the stories are over 30 years old. I wrote them, put them on a shelf, never gave them a second thought. And during my Home Depot career, toward the end, as a matter of fact, I had problems with arthritis. And how does that relate? But I did have to have a hip replacement at one point. And after all the action of being day-to-day on the floor at Home Depot with a lot of business, a lot of people, a lot of action, all of a sudden I'm facing 3 months at home doing nothing, just rehab. So I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
My dad had a legacy. He was a model builder. He used to build model ships, and he did so well at it. Some of them are still displayed on the Intrepid and several other museums around. But a legacy, I didn't have any idea what I was going to do when I retired, or a legacy item, I didn't give it any thought. And my wife says, hey, while you're home, why don't you take some of those stories that you wrote years ago and fix them up, write a few more, and see if you get published. And that planted a seed that's been growing ever since. And so my first book is a combination of 25 stories. Half of them are fiction and half are science fiction. I am a short story writer. God bless the novel writers. I just don't have the patience to do that. My stories are quick jabs in, quick out. And basically that's how things started. And I was lucky enough to have a friend of our family was very computer literate, was able to change my stories from the individuals that they were into a manuscript. And I was able to send the manuscript out. There was articles and advertisements for Page Publishing at the time, and I jumped on that. And I was very fortunate, and Page Publishing gave me a call, and they said, we like your book, we would like to publish it. And oh my God, that was the beginning of this whole thing. And it went from writing to being published.
Now take us, you mentioned that phone call from Page Publishing. Take us through the emotion or the emotions that you felt when you received that phone call, and what went through your mind and your heart and soul after getting that phone call, and that this was going to, this was becoming a reality.
Well, it's funny that you asked that, because my wife and I we go to Atlantic City maybe twice a year, and we were on such a trip. I had sent my manuscript in about 3 weeks before, and we're kind of on the edge waiting for some word back, and we were told it would take about 4 or 5 weeks. And I'm on the highway getting out of Atlantic City on the Atlantic City Expressway, and I get the phone call, and we take it in a car, and she said, we want to publish your book. And it's like, 3 lanes of traffic, pulled over, slammed on the brakes. I couldn't believe it. And we had a nice initial conversation. And of course, this was just the liaison lady who was telling me that it's, approved. Do I want to go ahead with the project? And I says, are you kidding? Let's go. And that was the beginning. And I had a relationship. They assigned me a consultant, and I worked with this one lady throughout the whole process. And it was very, very interesting. And it was a hybrid type of formula in that I paid for them to do the material, for them to do the work. They put everything together. They sent it to me for approval. Once it was approved, they went to the next step by step. All of a sudden, I went through the whole process, and the book was published. There was a little bit of a delay, if I may, because I said, all right, now the book is published. When is it going to be released? And she said, well, you signed up for the audiobook version as well. We have to go to another company, and they have to do the audio version. And I says, well, how long is that going to take? I thought it would be a week or two. And she said, no, about 2 or 3 months. And it's like, oh. And we're only going to do the release once when everything is done. So I had to wait a few months. But then again, that was a process where we had to choose someone to read the book. And that was a whole different kind of audition. We had to listen to 3 or 4 people read portions of the book. And we decided which one we wanted, which one was the best for us. And then it went through the process of them actually recording it. So this book is available. The first one is available soft cover, Kindle, and audio. So there you go.
And it's available through I believe BarnesandNoble.com and what else?
Barnes and Noble and Amazon.com. But right now I'm on an Ingram Spark, so it's distributed to just about any outlet you could think of. Book reads, Able Books. There's a whole bunch out there. As a matter of fact, I'm glad we are talking about it because I just had a recent development where I have a Google page. All right, I went through my marketing people and they actually have me on Google. So if you look up Ted Del Grosso on Google, you're going to get virtually everything I've done in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, that's incredible, Teddy, and that's great. I mean, what a great scenario that you just walked us through there. Needless to say, that drive home from Atlantic City, must have been a much sweeter ride home. Let's face it, most people, when they're driving home from Atlantic City, they're not usually in the best of moods, because they most likely haven't won, anything to speak of. And, they probably just had a good day or night or two away, whatever the case may have been, but then they're worrying, they're coming back and they're, thinking about, I'm going back home, going back to the old same routine, dealing with the lovely Garden State Parkway traffic, and all that. But in your case, on this particular occasion, that phone call, needless to say, I'm sure put you guys on a cloud nine type feeling, and I'm sure that was a much sweeter ride back up north than you ever experienced before, and there's nothing like that feeling of accomplishment, and the feeling of having pursued a dream, and you getting that phone call that's telling you, okay, well, at least this portion of the dream getting published is about to become true. It's about to become a reality. It's probably without question one of the greatest feelings in the world. I mean, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Ted, again, you and I, we've known each other a good 30 plus years. Again, starting with the baseball coaching, then we kind of went our separate ways a bit, and then you came back into coaching when your son was old enough to play, and we reconnected. Then you were coaching with our other dear mutual friend Lula Squinos, and we played against each other a couple of times. Again, this was the late '90s now, and then of course I was very involved with running the program in addition to coaching. And then, life took me in other directions. It took you in other directions. And then you and I reconnected about a year and a half ago. We were at one of the events in Belleville. I think it was the Belleville Music and Food Truck Festival. We ran into each other, reconnected, and we were talking about, you writing the books and everything. And, of course, that's when it gave me the idea, about eventually us getting together to have you on Cess's Corner. And thank you for being so patient with me. And as they say, life can sometimes get in the way. But here we are, and it's an absolute honor to hear the story. And I mean, Ted, your life has been quite adventurous and incredible from the standpoint. I mean, you served 4 years in the Navy, and thank you so much for your service. To our great country, and tell us about a little bit about your time in the Navy, and then and how it's impacted you and your life and so forth.
Well, it was a major impact. I kind of knew I wanted to get out of Belleville just to see a little bit of the world. I wasn't going to leave Belleville permanently, but I did want to get out there and taste a little bit of what else was out. And the easiest way for me to do it was to join the Navy. My dad had been in the Navy, and he told some nice stories, and I heard a lot of nice things over the years. And of course, we understood from the very beginning it was work. You're running the risk of going to war, but it was still, for me, much more worth it than not. So I actually joined during the senior year of high school, and that was a rush, being in the Navy while I was still in high school. So I showed that card around a lot. But the experience was amazing. I was assigned to a ship on the East Coast. I was what they call a designated striker. I went to school for damage control and ship fitting. My dad was a fireman, so he gave me a lot of up-to-date information about firefighting skills. So it was a natural fit for me to go into becoming a hull technician, an HT. And my specialty on board was damage control. And we had a lot of opportunity to, you have to learn to plug into the system. It's not an area where you want to be rebellious. You just plug in, and then once you're there, you do your best at it, and you have a chance to excel. And a lot of us did. You know, some of us didn't make it, but a lot of us did. And then we talk about the travel. I've been all over the world, all over the Western world, North Atlantic, the Mediterranean. We even went to the Middle East, and of course we did the Caribbean every year, at least 3 or 4 times, you know, in the course of my 4 years. So it was a wonderful experience, and it is reflected in several of the stories. There's at least 2 of them that refer to Navy experience in the first book, and in the second book there's 3 or 4 of them. And my son went on to become a sailor as well. He did so well in his entrance exam, they allowed him into the nuclear power program, and he served on a submarine. So I was able to actually get a story incorporating submarine activities. These are all fiction stories. None of them are real, but they are based on real life experiences. And what I try to do is I try to give you a little twist for each of the tales. My influence growing up was Ray Bradbury, Arthur C. Clarke, The Twilight Zone, things like that. So I'm used to having twists in stories, and that's what I try to produce here.
Well, let me say, Ted, I mean, I've had the pleasure of reading a good chunk of the short stories contained in the first edition, Ted's Tales, and I'm looking forward to the rest. And but let's you know, that's a good segue into you know, we can talk a little bit about a couple of the stories that are contained in Ted's Tales. I mean, the first one right off the bat, it's called The Trick. Okay, the first one right off the bat is very captivating, you know, to say the very least, because it keeps you on the edge of your seat. Okay, from the first word to the final word, you know, it's like, how is this individual going to survive, you know, this unbelievable turn of events that has happened, you know, and to be, you know, basically faced with death multiple occasions, basically, and then remembering this trick, if you will, taught to him by his grandfather, you know. I mean, take us through that first story, the trick, a little bit, and, like, you know, so was that like based on something that happened, let's say, between you and your grandfather, or like, to kind of take us through the underlying inspiration for the first story called The Trick?
Well, the Trick, it does refer to my grandfather. Again, it is a fiction story. The character is a fictitious character, all right? But I took it from my own life experience. My grandfather was a well-known hunter in northern New Jersey. He belonged to a hunt club and had quite a following, was a very successful hunter. And when we were children, he would tell us the stories. And when we came of age, he would take us out in the woods. And of course, we were unarmed and everything. And he would just take us out on hikes and teach us how to walk in the woods, how to dress for the seasons, how to read the weather. Some things were pretty typical, and some were not. You know, how to look at different tracks, how to track animals, things like that. So we delved into quite a bit of it. And then the second part of his training was basically gun handling. He would teach us how to handle the shotguns, which is the primary weapon of choice in New Jersey for hunting. And basically, when it was time for us to go out with him, he would take us out. He would be the first one to take us out and train us in the field for pheasant hunting or deer hunting, whatever it was. So, and he would teach us later on about specific tricks. And one of the tricks was to how to stop an animal. If an animal is moving, you don't want to really take a shot. You want to make sure it's humane. So you wait until it stops. Now, what if it doesn't stop? You don't have all day. So you make a sound. And most critters, people included, when they hear a strange sound, what do? They stop and look around.
Yeah.
And then stopping gives you the opportunity to take the shot. And that was one of the tricks that he taught us. And the character in the story takes that trick with him, and among other tricks, and he becomes a hunter himself. And he is on an exotic hunt to Alaska, and it's a guided polar bear hunt. And something goes terribly wrong with the plane as the pilot is flying him to the location. And long story short, crashes. He's the lone survivor, but guess what? He's basically naked. All he has is the clothes on his back. All of the guns, all of the food, all of the extra clothes lost in the crash. And he was thrown from the plane and was able to survive. So as much as that was a threat, as he's dusting himself off and realizing his situation, he sees in the distance his quarry, the polar bear. There it is. But except the roles now have been reversed. Now he's the hunted one. The bear is coming for him, for his lunch. So how he gets out of that situation, he uses his grandfather's trick. And his grandfather's trick at the last moment, when everybody doesn't know what's going to happen, ends up working for him. And so the first story is a dedication, a tribute to my grandfather. Even though it's a fictitious story, it's based on a lot of the experiences I had in true life with him.
That's phenomenal, Teddy. Absolutely phenomenal. And folks, that's just the very first story, okay, that we're referencing in the first edition of Ted's Tales. Okay, we're just talking about the very, very beginning of all of this, and just think about what comes after, and let me tell you. So, and look, you said before about how it's kind of a short and sweet type thing. As I was even telling you, from my own personal standpoint, I love to read. Okay, biggest challenge though is having the time. We're all entrapped in these crazy busy lives. Running all over and working so much, and sometimes finding the time to let's say read a novel or a biography or whatever it may be is just not as readily available as we would like it to be. Sometimes we're looking for a quicker fix, if you will, and now you have supplied us with that outlet, to get a good quick story. You can read a couple of these a day. We have a few minutes. It'll take your mind off of everything, give you a chance to escape the rigors of your daily life, get that little escape, that little distraction, and help you. It also helps you put things into perspective for your own life, or whatever you might be going through that particular day, So not only, Ted, have you achieved something, because let's face it, there's a lot of people out there that want to get published, that want to become authors. But, it actually happening, is quite the feat, quite the accomplishment. A lot of people are not as lucky. And, but you took a shot and you've gotten published. And now you can relish on the impact that what you've published is having, not just on your life and your family's life, but on others, because now you're giving us this, this additional form of escape and entertainment, that not only, again, takes our mind off of things, but kind of helps us put things in perspective and kind of, helps us remember, just how precious life is and how short life can be, and how, sweating those small things is something that we're also quick to do. And we have to remember that that's the last thing we should be doing is, because there's so many things much more important in life. And so thank you for that. And, and again, that was just the first story. I mean, the couple of the other stories that I had the chance to, to get to so far, master / pet. Okay. Now being a diehard avid dog lover and dog owner, that I am, and you, of course, being a dog owner, we can both appreciate, the significance of that master-pet relationship. Tell us about the origin of master/pet.
Well, it's funny how we are the humans, so we are the masters, and the dogs are the pets. And one would think, but when you think about it, who chases who and picks up the poo? All right? Who makes sure that the meals are the correct composition? Who makes sure that a look and a tail wag is a reward? Okay, so when you look at the intricacies of the relationship, oh yeah, we have the house and we have the brains and all of that, but there are some times where we're just not in charge. It's as simple as that. And this story, short as it is, gives you a little bit of insight into the relationship between a dog and a dog owner, and sometimes how the roles are fuzzy, if not reversed.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Being a multiple dog owner that I am, proudly I may say, there's no question that those lines get blurred. Okay, not just once in a while, but I think we could all agree on a daily basis. And you know what, though? Let's face it, Ted. Here's the reality. I don't think any of us would want it any other way, because that's what makes it so special. Okay, to say the least.
I agree.
So let's talk about the fact that we talk about how everything is fiction, and your specialty obviously is fiction, science fiction as well, and so forth. So we have Ted's Tales, we have Ted's Tales 2, we have Ted's Tales, the Short Timers, and so forth. So now, what can we expect now, perhaps coming next? I mean, is it going to be all more fiction? Do you ever have the anticipation of, deviating from fiction and getting into another realm, if you will? Tell us what's next for Ted Del Grosso.
Well, one of the best pieces of advice I got was from a neighbor actually living across the street. She said to me when I first told her about my first book, she says, you should join a writer's group. All right, get in with other people that are writers. Even if they're not writing the same thing the same way you are, just get together. And I've been doing that for over a year and a half now.
Okay.
And I belong to the Montclair Write Group. And we meet every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We have an hour and a half meeting. Then there are a lot of spin-offs from there. And I belong to what we call the Free Write Group. Now, the Free Write Group, they send you prompts at 10 o'clock on a Saturday. Right? 3-word prompts, touch and go, up and down. It could be very simple phrases. And you choose one of those 3 prompts and you write something to it. Could be a poem, could be a short story, but you only have an hour and a half. At 11:30, we all get on Zoom and we present to each other what we've written. So that has given me a sense of pressure, time pressure. You have to produce something. Now you can go sit and say, I don't have anything, I just want to listen. But most of us understand the purpose is to get you to write, all right, and on a steady basis. So that's what I've been doing. That's what's kept me going through all of these books. And I'm writing as we speak. Ted's Tales 3 will probably be out within, I would say, less than a year. I have 16 tales already written. There's another 16 to go. And once I get to 30, I think I'm going to stop and then maybe publish. Also with Short Timers, if you notice that Short Timers is more of a pamphlet than a book. This was an idea my marketer gave me. And she says, Ted, you write all of these quickie short stories, less than 700, 800 words. What are you going to do with them? And she said, you ought to put a few of them together in a little book, sell it very inexpensively, and that would draw attention because of the price. Yeah. And people perhaps would read this and say, hey, I like his style. What else has he written? And then you go to the others. So that's the benefit of having a website. That's the benefit big time of being having a Google page.
Yes. All
right, because the word can get out. And it's been my pleasure to get feedback. People who read the books like them. So my challenge is to get them out there. But as far as what's next, I am going to be writing short stories probably for the rest of my life. I have a couple that my critique group said it's too much material for a 3,000-word story. You should put that aside and write a novella or a novel. Someday I'll probably do that, but I haven't run out of ideas for short stories yet. And I'm going to keep going on the short stories when I'm exhausted, I'll go back to my idea book and perhaps write the novel.
That sounds like a plan to me. And Ted, in keeping with that, you mentioned about the drawing attention, the website, the Google page, and doing the pamphlet, short timers situation, and so forth. Now, I also have seen, because we're connected on social media as well, I've also seen that you've been doing a lot of different book signings and in various places. Take us, like where have you been recently, and you have any upcoming book signing events, that are currently scheduled that are upcoming as well?
Well, we did. As a matter of fact, this is Monday. On last Saturday, just a couple of days ago, we were at the New Providence Book Festival, and we go there. We set up the table, the chairs, we have the canopy, and we put our books out pretty much to display as you see here, and that is a wonderful experience. We get to mix and mingle with other authors, other local authors, and again, people write everything. You have biographies, you have nonfiction. You have mysteries. This time of year, a lot of people who write horror stories are coming out. So we do have occasions to meet with other local authors and just exchange ideas. And of course, the people come through and then they have a choice, just like you do when you go to say a Barnes and Noble or something. There's thousands of books. Pick what you like and walk past what you don't. So the challenge in that situation is to attract them to my books. And once they're there, have a pitch that you can say in 10, 15 seconds that would draw the interest. It doesn't always work. Nothing works.
Yeah, nothing's foolproof. Yeah.
But it's very interesting to get out there. I love the camaraderie. I love the company. And of course, you walk away after you sold a few books. So there's levels of success, different types of venues. But the book fair is something that I'm going to be looking into doing a little more next year. As far as the future, I plan to try to get into some libraries, make arrangements for book festivals. Like some of them, I signed up, it was too late. They were already filled. So you write down the date, because they do it every year, and next year I'll start a little earlier to get more involved. So that is the plan. As I continue to write, attend the book fairs, try to get through, I have a few consignment agreements with local Barnes and Nobles. I am very fortunate in some of the store managers were gracious enough to give me space on their shelves. It is a limited agreement, and we split the profits, of course, but exposure is always nice. So I say yes to anything that's offered.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you have a lot brewing in terms of opportunities with the book fairs and the festivals and the signings, that arrangement with Barnes and Noble. I mean, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing and hearing, exactly where else you're going to be and where this is all going to take you. Going back to some of the ideas, that have led to the stories, in addition to, looking back upon, some real life past experiences as inspiration for a good chunk of the stories, are you getting ideas from, let's say, other outlets or other sources? Like, for example, is your family feeding you potential ideas to incorporate or things of that nature as well?
Oh, absolutely. We've done several vacations down to Virginia Beach, Atlantic City, things like that. And some of the stories aren't out yet, but they're in development now. They have been written, but they're just not published yet. But like I said, my son was in the Navy himself, and he was on a submarine, which even among us veterans who've been on ships, submarine is a whole different level, okay? Being a submariner is a lot different from being a surface warship sailor. And I had the opportunity, I was so fortunate in 2007, his boat was offering a Tiger Cruise, they call it, where fathers, brothers, could attend. So I was able to fly down to Cocoa Beach, Florida, and ride the boat from Florida up to Groton, Connecticut. It was a 5-day trip, underwater just about the whole time. And I was able to explore what life is like on a submarine. I wasn't allowed to go back aft because that's maneuvering and that's nuclear territory. And no one is allowed past that except people trained in a nuclear power program. But as a civilian guest aboard, I had the time of my life. It was the best thing that happened to me since I had come out of the Navy myself. And I just have to make a note that the crews of submarines are a different cut of people. They're amazing people, all of them. So, and based on that, I wrote a story called Swim Call. Swim Call is basically about the crew of a submarine they go through various war games, and war games amounts to other ships trying to hunt down and kill the submarine. And they went through the war game and they succeeded, and the reward given to them was the captain ordered the submarine to the surface, checked to make sure there was nothing around, and gave them swim call. They were able to swim in the middle of the ocean off the submarine. And that's just the premise of the story. And that really happens. But what happens after that, in the story itself, it involves dolphins. That is where I go into the fiction element of the story. So, but that was a prime example of one of my family members, our son David, as it related to experiences that he had.
Fantastic. And we thank David for his service as well. And listening to you, talk about David's time in the Navy as a submarine sailor, etc., and all that. And I'm thinking, I remember the young boy playing baseball, and then I'm trying to picture him on it's kind of hard to make that transition, but right. That is quite the inspirational story there. And I again, I can only imagine, all the other stories that are already in development, and I'm sure the things that are going to, the ones that are going to come after that. So much to look forward to with you, Ted. It's a kind of a nonstop runaway train of great short stories to really keep us all, to keep us all entertained, to keep us, help keep our sanity. When life keeps tugging at us and driving us crazy, this is just what the doctor orders, as far as I'm concerned. So thank you so much for sharing, this with us and so forth. Now, let's talk a little bit more about, we know about, Ted, the father, the husband, and the successful career at Home Depot, and, former member of the Navy, etc. Let's take a little bit more of a personal dive, if I may, into you, Ted. Again, we've known each other a long time. Okay, we've been at a variety of town functions together. Again, back in our coaching days, there was some recreation events outside of our games that we would attend. Numerous coaches meetings. Right. And all that good stuff. We had some fun back in those days, no question about it. But let's talk about some other characteristics of you from a personal level, and so forth. Because we're talking about, we really want to get to know this, the man behind these great short stories and so forth. So to kind of take that to the next level, now this might be a challenging question, but I'm gonna ask you. So your favorite book, okay, obviously outside of the Ted's Tales series, if I may, what comes to mind?
Well, my favorite books are actually science fiction, okay? We're all familiar with the story, let me see, Stormtroopers. I believe it's Stormtroopers, but let me see. There's a few stories by Ray Bradbury that stick in my mind. And a lot of them were short stories, such as Fire and Ice, and about a stranded civilization on a planet where they live only 8 days, that everything was rushed, that you were a child only for like half a day, and then you grew up, and 8 days from then you died because of the radiation just increased your rate of, so I mean, a lot of science fiction stories that come to mind. One of my actual favorite books is by Stephen Hunter. It's called Shooter now. They changed it when they made a movie, and the movie is okay, starring Mark Wahlberg. But the book, if you get a chance to read it, is fantastic. His character development, his attention to detail, his ability to draw you in as a reader and keep you through an entire novel is something that I aspire to, but I have to stay with the short stories. I don't believe I have the patience or the talent yet to do something like he does through a novel. And among the movies, of course, was 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, I'm 68 years old. I saw that in 1968. And so I walked out of the theater saying, oh man, when I grow up, I'm going to be able to go to the moon on vacation. And it was such a fantasy. And then here we were in the middle of the space race, and the man actually walked on the moon a year later. So we were all set, ready to go. I planned to take a vacation on the moon. And the fact that other things interfere and we never really did it, we're doing it, but at a snail's pace. Probably not going to happen in my lifetime. And so I'm doing what I can as far as a legacy is I'm writing stories about possible futures. And I'm writing stories about what may have been discovered that have been involved with us. Like there's a story called Sharing. Sharing takes place, he's a lecturer at the UN, and he's discussing questions to his audience. Now his audience is scientists, but he's gathered an audience worldwide, and everybody's wondering why, what's going on. And he has a special announcement that he promises will be worth all of this attention. And then he goes on with his lecture to discuss how is it that human beings live on Earth? What happened, celestially that allowed that to occur? And he goes into everything from the position of our star in the sky to the fact that Earth is a rocky planet. It's the right size, the gravity to support the life as we know it. It has the atmosphere, the magnetic protection of the atmosphere, the magnetic shield, all kinds of these things. And people don't usually think about that. Why are we on the Earth, but nobody's living on Mars, or nobody's living on Titan or Venus? And the conditions. So he starts his lecture talking about that. And then he mentions the other thing is when we do go to the stars, what are we looking for? And we're probably going to be looking for another Earth, another place where we could step out of the spaceship and boom, there's another Earth. We could start all over again, expand the human race, just like a lot of science fiction movies have discussed and described. So it's not a unique idea. But what I do is I give you a twist at the end. And the story is called Sharing, so that's kind of a hint as to the rest of the tale. But I don't want to give it away here.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. And just another piece of motivation, folks, to definitely check out all of the editions of Ted's Tales so far. So now, favorite hobby outside of writing? Okay, what comes to mind?
Well, it used to be, I was involved in martial arts for a very long time, both as a youngster and then after the Navy, and up until the time where our first child was born. Because then I realized I couldn't devote a lot of my time what I was doing there. I was a father now. I had responsibilities at home. So I kind of gave it up, the door closed on that rather quickly. But until that time, I was the instructor on the mat at NB Jiu-Jitsu for a long time. And there's a couple of stories. There's a story in the Ted's Tales 2 that came out of that experience. And again, it's a fiction story, but it's based on true events.
Understood.
And the other hobbies that I did, I used to love hiking and camping. I still go hunting. My brother and I usually hunt together this time of year. We go for deer, we go for pheasant, and we go for turkey. And I'm fortunate enough to marry a lady who loves to eat the wild game. So once it comes home, we actually cook it up and eat it. So it's a soup to nuts kind of experience. And but the arthritis has slowed me down in my older years, and so I don't do as much of that as I could or should. But writing and reading has become my new legacy. And speaking of legacies, like my father did before me, he built his models, and the models are still on display. He's gone now 10 years, and it gave me the idea, what can I do as a legacy item? And again, I've been blessed with the ability to write, and these are going to be here long after I'm gone. And so those are my legacies.
I could not have said it any better, and thank you so much for that, Ted. That is perfect, and that is, it's heartwarming to hear that. It's also very inspirational, and I can't thank you enough for your time and sharing the deep personal aspects to you with what you've accomplished and where it has all hailed from originally. It's not easy, and it's not easy for everyone to just share, those deep thoughts from a personal level. And thank you so much for being able to do that and doing it so well, so eloquently today as part of this edition of Cessa's Corner. And folks, again, Ted Del Grosso, local successful author, Ted's Tales 2, Ted's Tales Short Timers, Ted's Tales 3 to come, as you heard. Okay, available through, again, BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, and so forth. I highly recommend everyone definitely starting at the beginning like I am with Ted's Tales, and then going on from there. And because we are truly speaking to today, okay, with a storytelling maestro who writes books to read before bed for grown-ups. So as it says on his website, and I think those words describe you perfectly, Ted. And I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to take you away from your writing for a little bit here today, and to share this journey with us, to share your deep personal experiences with us. I'm so excited for what's to come. I'm so happy for you and your family for what you have accomplished thus far. Looking so forward to finishing the what's out there already, and looking forward to what's to come. Thank you so much for being a part of this and sharing all of this with us. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ted. Folks, once again, Ted Del Grosso, again, Ted's Tales 2, Ted's Tales Short Timers. Check it out. No question about it. You will absolutely enjoy it. And keep an eye on what's to come from Ted and so forth. We appreciate everyone's ongoing support for Cessa's Corner. Once again, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel under Anthony M. Cessa. Click on that notification bell. Click on the thumbs up there. So much more to come from Cessa's Corner during this 2024-2025 season. I've only just begun, okay? I promise you that. Thank you, everyone. Ted, thank you once again. Have a great one, everyone, and we'll see you again soon here on Cessa's Corner.